In the first picture you saw showed everything that we need to use. Of course you need your tools to take the car apart, but basically to put the stickers on, all you really need is a sharp knife, X-Acto knife of some kind. I use water and I drop a few drops of soap in here. That way it gives a little bit of sliminess to it. But what I do to start with, and I cut everything out ahead of time. In the picture you saw it all, the way it comes with just one sheet. But I squirt that side, or whatever side you're going to put the sticker on, and then I peel back the sticker. Alright, there we go. And then I take this, and I squirt on the back side of the sticker. And then what I do is I lay the sticker flat like this. Just get a better angle or a better surface, and then line it up. Try and make sure you have as much trash and clean the front of the plastic off so you don't have any trash in there. And then if you just put it around the edge where it's equal, then you can trim around it. But for instance, this time when I put it on, there's not a lot of space down here on the bottom, so that's why you put the water on it. You can just pull it right back off. Well, sometimes it's easier said than done, but there we go. Just pull it back off, lay it back down, and then position it where you like. You can also aim it, put it on the bottom here, put it on the top, and then when it's pretty equal all the way around, that's what you want. If it's one way up or down, that's fine. What I normally do is I lift it up and look into the light and see, make sure I'm not cutting anything off. It does not appear that I am with the way I have it now. So then I just push down on it. And when you cut these apart from each other, because it does, like I said, it comes with one big sticker. It's one big sticker. So when you cut it apart, leave this white piece in here, because having that just flapping makes it a little bit harder to line it up when you're putting it on. It's a whole lot easier just to cut it after the fact. At least that's what I found. And then just run your finger, nice and easy, get all the little air bubbles out. Sometimes there's still a few left in there. If you leave it sitting for a little bit, most of those air bubbles will come out with the heat. And then if there's any when there's left, you just take your knife and find a little air bubble that you need to get rid of. You just poke a hole in it and it'll get rid of the air bubble. But anyway, so then what I do is I take this and I will cut around the edge as tight as possible, and then just slowly start peeling everything back once I've cut around. There we go. And the key is really to have the sharpest knife you can. This one's actually a little dull. I'll probably need to go ahead and buy a new one. But the sharper the knife, the better the cut, and more clean the cut is. And you don't get it where it bunches up or anything. Like that. So then you just pull all this up. Cut that. And once you do this a few times, you kind of get used to it. Again, stick that right there. And I go ahead and do like the whole perimeter, the whole outside of the car first, and that way it's just done. And then I work my way to all the little small holes that are actually on the car. Alright, so there's that, and then we'll come to the inside stuff. Got the little squares. There we go. Come here. Now for the little holes that the screws go into, all I do, let me get this last one here. All I do is I take the X-Acto knife and I just poke a hole, and that way when I'm putting the screws back in I know where they go. But for these I just come and poke a little hole, and then that way when I come from the other side I just push the screw in. And when you're tightening the screws, make sure you don't over tighten them, and make sure you give this a little bit of time to dry as well. If you over tighten them, it'll give that like wrinkled look, like you know when a drag car takes off and the tires like wrinkle up. It wrinkles the wrap. So make sure it dries for a little bit before you try and put it back onto the car. I know everybody gets anxious when they get the wraps and they want to get them on as quick as possible, but it just looks better when you take your time and don't over tighten the screw and then also wrinkle the wrap while putting it on. But anyway, so you poke all the little holes, these little bit bigger holes like this, and like on the EDM where the Nerf bars and stuff go in, I do cut those out just so that the black piece that's behind it that goes to the Nerf bar, you can actually kind of see it, and it just looks a little bit better that way. The side pieces of the Sprint and the Midgets are way easier than the EDM. The EDM, what I do with that, and I'll take a quick break here on this Midget, show you. What I do with the EDMs is I take it completely apart, do these, put those back on the inside panels, and then of course you take this apart from the inside piece here. I do the inside piece, and then I leave it off, and then I do the two sides first, and then I usually leave a little bit of overlay on the top, and then I put the roof piece on, and that way it kind of covers up any seams that you have. This is a little bit older wrap, and I didn't line this one up too well with the art file, but that's the way I do those. Normally, if you do these correctly, it can take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour to get the wrap installed. When you're taking the car completely apart, it may take a little bit longer than that, but it's a little time consuming. But if you really take your time, then it'll look better. And let's see, I think that's all the holes. Yeah, got that one, get this one, get that one. So then we flip it back over, and like I said, you can kind of keep smoothing it out. Don't push too hard. This paint, or not paint, but the ink on the wrap, if you push really hard, it'll kind of rub it off if you push hard and too many times. So you don't need to push super hard, but just gently rub it across. And like I said, let it sit for a little bit, and if you want to let it sit outside even, or take a blow dryer, if you let it sit outside, don't let it sit for too long because the edges will curl up. Or you can take a blow dryer and just lightly blow on it and kind of push the bubbles out of it to get it as smooth as possible. And then that's the side pieces. When it comes to the top here, the visor, what I do is kind of the same thing. I peel it back, put a little squirt on that, put a little squirt on the visor, put this down, make sure it's the right way. Alright, and then yep, so there, and then same thing, you just try and center it up. And with the water you can move it around a little bit, and then I just kind of roll it back like that, make sure it's on there. Now with this one, I let it sit a little bit before I start cutting so it kind of dries, just to give it a little bit of extra time. With the numbers, I do make it to where it can cover the whole tank, but I found it's a whole lot easier if you just actually cut the number out, and then you can twist it and turn it whatever way you want it to go. I put a little bit of water, but not a lot on this one, just because I normally just try and get it on there, and it is what it is with the tank. I don't normally spend too much time with the tank, but so you just put that on nice and easy on both sides, and then same thing, let that dry. If you have any questions, just send a comment or shoot me an email. My email is dusty at b3rsports.com. And let's see here. There we go. A little low, so we'll pull that back off. And so there's the tank. So I'll show you guys the finished product when we're done. But you do the hood the same way. You just take the hood off, squirt the water on it, squirt the water on the back of this, stick it on. What you don't want to do is you don't want to get water on the back of this when the paper's still on there, because it makes the paper come off, and it won't get all the paper off sometimes. So you want to try and keep that a little bit further away, and that way it doesn't get any water on it. But that's pretty much so it. Sharp X-Acto knife, water with just a little bit of soap in it. And don't over tighten the bolts when you put it on, especially the first time, to keep the wrap from wrinkling up. And that's how you install the wrap. Alright, so we got everything put back on. I don't know if you can see or not, but there are a few bubbles left in. After having it out a few times in the heat, those bubbles will kind of go away. Like I said, you can kind of push those down. But that's basically what it looks like when it's done. If you do have any big bubbles, again, like I said, just take the X-Acto knife and just poke a little hole in it. You can kind of push the air out of it. But there's the numbers on the back. What I had to do for the hood is I had to cut a little slit right here and here. That way it would go over both sides of the hood. Whenever we make the graphics for these wraps on the hoods, because the hoods that come with it have the little square piece in the front, what I normally do is I try and make the graphic for the bottom, and then if somebody wants a graphic like up in this area, I'll make one for up in there so that you can have one here and there. But that way you're not trying to wrap it around both sides, because it is hard to cut it around that square. It can be done, but it's just easier to not have to do that. But that's it. So hopefully this helps you guys installing your graphics in the future. And like I said, if you have any questions, just shoot me an email. Thanks.